Well, I think we will get started. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. I am Amanda McLean. I am one of the board members for the North Dakota Local Food Development Alliance, and I am the moderator for today's call. I think just to kind of get started with the group, as a warm-up question, if people can go around and say your name and where you're affiliated with, and then what is your favorite fresh fruit or vegetable from your garden?
Mhm.
Mine is probably cucumbers, and I will ping it over to Jenna.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jenna Neters. I am the local food marketing specialist with the North Dakota Department of Agriculture, and I am also the board secretary for NDLFDA. And I think it either, so for vegetable, it's radishes, and for fruits, it's raspberries. So we're in an alliteration mood today, but those two I feel like are the best to try fresh right from the ground. And I will popcorn it to Jody.
Yeah, hi, Jody Bruins, NDSU Extension. And I guess right now I'm going to say fresh beets. We just had our first picking out of the garden the other night, and it was so amazing. And how about we go to Jill?
Hi, Jill Hawkinson, USDA Rural Development Community Development Specialist. I guess mine would, I like the beets. Those are great. But then I just got rhubarb finally after 4 years to start growing, and I really love rhubarb upside down cake, all of those things. So I don't know if rhubarb's technically a vegetable or fruit, but I'll say that.
It is a vegetable.
So it's a vegetable. It's our new North Dakota state vegetable, but it
Oh,
is legally classified as a fruit for import and export reasons. Fun fact, sorry to.
Interesting.
good tidbit, Jenna. I can go
Um,
next.
Sorry, I'll
sure.
popcorn it
That's
to
okay.
Ellen and the new
I'm
little one.
yeah, Ellen. In Bismarck, I'm the director of finance for Light Spring LLC. It's a renewable energy company. Currently a full-time maternity leave mom, and this is Leela, little Leela. And I think that my favorite garden produce are when the peas, the sugar snap peas are ready. They're like candy. I could just eat a pound of them a day. And I will popcorn it over to the other Ellen.
Thank you, Ellen. I'm Ellen Huber, Rural Development Director at the North Dakota Association of Rural Electric Cooperatives. And I would be fibbing if I said that I still had a vegetable garden. So I'm going to say it's fresh salsa from the gardens of dear friends. And I will send it to Felicity.
Hi everyone, Felicity Merritt. I'm off camera today just because I have a bad cold, but happy to be here. I'm calling in from Fargo, where I work remotely as an Economic Recovery Corps fellow. And I would say I love fresh cherry tomatoes. I just feel like they're one of the things where you taste the difference so strongly between fresh and something that you get from a grocery store. So that would be my answer. And I hopped in late, so I don't know who all has gone, but I
Uh,
will,
Popcorn it to Chris.
okay, I will popcorn to Chris.
All right, thank you. Chris Gessley, I'm a co-op development specialist with the North Dakota Association of Rural Electric Co-ops. I echo everything Felicity said about cherry tomatoes. That's definitely my number one. But I also really like, and I really like basil. Just almost just the smell alone walking by the garden is awesome. So I, yeah, I like that. I will pass along to Jan.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. Jan Stankowitz with NDSU Extension, Community Health and Nutrition Specialist, and I'm the current president for NDLFDA. And I have to a resounding vote for the tomatoes, any tomato. I feel so strongly about it that I don't ever even buy tomatoes from a grocery store because they're so different. And I will send it to Stephanie.
I apologize, I missed the prompt.
What's your favorite fruit or vegetable that you get out of a garden?
Oh, oh boy. I'm Stephanie Bloomhagen. I am the executive director for Farms, joining from my home office in Botno. And oh boy, I like them all. Um, yeah, I'll go with tomato as well. There's just nothing like a garden tomato when it's perfectly ripe. And I will send it over to Jody.
I already reported beets.
So we're Jared is one.
Think that when reading the chat, Jared is actually Mary Podal. Hi, Mary.
Oh.
Her microphone is not working. And then Casey also, Casey Olson, her microphone is not working. So I think Julie is the last one, but she's at work at the front desk of her office. So I'm not sure if she can respond either. But if you
She's
want to
got it
chat,
in the
Mary,
chat. Yep.
Well, just for those who can't see, Julie's favorite is a sun golden cherry tomato. Chris's is lettuce, and Mary's, I don't see what Mary's favorite was, but if Mary wants to put it in the chat, that'd be great later. So, well, thanks everybody for Mary just loves all types of veggies, but definitely tomatoes. Everybody's loving tomatoes. Well, with that, I will turn it over to Jenna to go over all the strategic planning that we've been doing and kind of reveal the way that we are restructuring some things and looking at things for the North Dakota Local Food Development Alliance. So,
Okay. I was like, is that Sasha? And then no one responded to me, and I was like, hello, but it was me that was on mute. Um, okay, so everyone can see the slideshow. Yeah.
yep, good.
Okay, so we are going to talk a little bit about our strategic planning that we all did in February of this year. We worked with a company called Worldview Intelligence, and for any organizations that are looking to redo their strategic planning or host more meaningful events, I definitely recommend them. They were awesome, and they worked with our budget and everything like that. So really shout out to those two, Jerry, and I'm blanking on the other lady's name, but both really awesome. Kathy, yes, there you go. Jerry and Kathy, yes. So highly recommend that company there. So let me see here. Let's go. All right. So today we're just going to go over a little bit. We'll introduce ourselves. We'll go over some survey results. So if some of you may remember, we did a survey ahead of our strategic planning to get some feedback from our membership base. We have some bios for our board of directors. We have almost everyone on today, I think. We'll go over our new vision and values, our new mission statement, our new strategic goals, and then we have a little bit of a timeline and a little bit of information about our website update that we'll be doing later this year as well. So just as an introduction, let's see here. Oh, I'm sorry. I put the wrong thing there. I have to reveal it later, but I'm sorry. So thank you so much for coming. Um, First, I'll start with the survey results. So I just have one of the questions here, which was how important is it for NDLFDA to support programs and initiatives in the following areas? And I kind of just ranked them based, so it's a stacked bar chart. So policy and advocacy, networking, collaboration, marketing and promotion, and consumer engagement have the highest amount of responses that were in the very important to fairly important category. So you'll see that a lot of our values, our strategic goals, our mission, our vision are kind of built around that because we wanted to make sure we got feedback from our base before we made any changes. And so I guess I just messed up on that slide there. So just pretend you didn't see that, everyone. So next we'll say hello from our board of directors. We do have Chris Gessley here up front and center, but he is no longer on our board of directors, but he was still very pivotal in our in our process for strategic planning. So thank you a lot, Chris, for being part of that. And I will let those who are here introduce themselves. So Jan, we'll start with you. I don't think Brent is here. So Ellen, you can go next, and then I'll do Brent and myself, and and maybe Dawn. I don't know if Dawn's here, and I'll let everyone else introduce themselves. So Jan, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, what do you want me to say, Jenna?
I guess you can just read that, like why you're part of NDLFDA, how long you've been part of NDLFDA too.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. I think I'm sitting in my second term with the board. I think next month will be my kind of the end of my second term, I believe. And I just truly believe in the strength of a coalition or alliance, and that it's like the entire coalition is just stronger than all of us as individuals. And I just think there's also something to be said about the timing of this sort of work and these efforts. So I just appreciate everybody's involvement and engagement.
And Ellen?
Yep, I'm Ellen. I am the current sitting treasurer, and I've been on the board of directors since this organization formed. Bill Davis actually basically said to me, "You're on the board," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then we voted on it, whatever. But so Jill and I go way back on this board. And I grew up as a kid of a local farmer, and I saw how that built community around our farm and around Bismarck. And so it's just like basically a passion for me to help farmers and help community and eat healthy local foods. So I think this is a great way to do that across the state, not just in our own little siloed city. So happy to be here and happy that all of you are here too.
And what year was that it was formed,
I
Ellen?
think it was 2018. Jill, can you, and Stephanie, you might remember, was it the end of 2018?
I think somewhere in that neighborhood. We had some meetings, I think preliminary meetings before that, but I think that's when it really kicked off. Correct me if I'm wrong, Stephanie.
I think the preliminary meetings were fall of 2017, and then the official formation was early 2018.
January.
Okay. Cool. And Brent, I don't believe is with us today, but Brent Trella, Dr. Brent Trella is our vice president. He's a food scientist, winemaker, farmer in Cavalier County, and he's a co-owner operator with his wife of Bees Thai and Fusion Cuisine. It's a food truck in Fargo. Really great food. I definitely recommend trying it out. And Dawn, I believe, is also not here. She's the president of the Town Square Farmers Market, and she's food environment lead with Blue Zones Grand Forks. So if you were at our meeting last month, she talked a little bit about the programs and initiatives she's working on. And she believes that supporting local foods is critical to the prosperity of all our North Dakota communities. I'm sorry to introduce myself. My name's Jenna Nieders. I'm the secretary of the board. I'm the local food marketing specialist with the North Dakota Department of Ag. I'm also a grad student. I'm studying sustainable and resilient food systems at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. And I believe that local food is community, and what you put into it is what you get out of it. And so that's why I put a lot into it so that I can get a lot out of it, which is, community togetherness and collaboration and tons of delicious food. So, Amanda and Jill, you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves again, I suppose?
Sure. I'm Amanda McLean. I am the farm management specialist with North Dakota Farmers Union. Um, I've always been involved with agriculture, and so since I've come to Farmers Union the last 3 years, I've kind of been working with the local foods. It really started with the regional food business centers. And so I really believe in supporting local businesses, and agriculture is so important to especially the sustainability of North Dakota and continuing to have those growths in our rural communities. And it's the backbone that keeps this state running is agriculture and supporting those rural communities. So that's why I really enjoy working with this group.
Hi, Jill Hawkinson. I introduced myself, but community development specialist with rural development. I also spent about 20 years in USDA NRCS, and currently I serve as rural development champion on the North Dakota USDA beginning and farmer rancher team, but I also did 3 years as the coordinator for the state in that. And I really enjoy agriculture. I grew up on a farm. I still live on a farm, married to a farmer, and my background is agriculture. So I believe in what what we're doing as an organization here. And I guess my tie in was that when Bill Davis retired, he passed the torch to me and said, Jill, keep helping out and make sure that this organization is successful. So that's how I got the ex officio spot on the board. So got a great group here, and I have to say they're doing great things as a board of directors.
Yes, thank you, Jill. And for anyone who doesn't know, ex officio just means she doesn't have a vote. But we all take her opinions, and she's a great asset to the board. We just don't let her vote on anything. And then lastly, we actually have an open spot on our board of directors right now. So if you're a farmer or rancher, you have legal expertise, if you're in the western part of North Dakota, please consider joining our board of directors. The agenda has the application and the expectations. And of course, you don't have to be a farmer or a rancher or have legal expertise or be in the western part of the state. Those are just some of the areas that we're looking for representation on our board of, especially the western part of the state. So if you're on the western part of the state and you'd like to join, we'd really love to have you because we don't have a lot of representation from that side of the state, and we want to kind of spread it around. So. Okay, so now moving on to our values and vision. And so I'll start with the values first because it's kind of when we did our strategic planning, we started with the values and then we worked all the way to the mission and the vision. But because the values kind of became our foundation of how we wanted to you know verbalize our mission and our vision and our strategic goals. And so the five that we worked, well, it feels like for months we had like word clouds and getting them down and going through the groan zone, which Kathy and Jerry said, it's all part of strategic planning, being like, oh, does this sound right? Does that sound right? Or maybe it was just me doing that all the time. But so we figured we landed on empowerment, resilience, nurture, trust, and reciprocity. And a part of this also wasn't just using those words. It was what does it mean to us? How do we define those things? And so empowerment to NDLFDA means investing in advocacy and education. Resilience means the adaptability and responsiveness to changing circumstances. Nurture means honoring people and stewarding the earth. Trust is building community through transparency, and reciprocity is actively strengthening partnerships where mutual benefit enriches everyone involved. And at any point, if anyone has any questions or if any board members want to add anything, feel free to go ahead and shout it out. But so the values are kind of how we decided our vision, our mission, our strategic goals, and it's kind of created the foundation for our whole process. And our new vision, the mission, you might have seen, it's already on the agenda, but our new vision is the NDLFDA sees a future where local food systems flourish through respect and shared prosperity, uplifting communities and empowering farmers, producers, businesses, and communities. And so essentially, it's just important for us to, the vision is what's our overall goal? Like, what's the most ideal situation that we can create? And our mission is kind of how we're going to get there, but our vision is where we want to be. And so when we think about local food systems, we think about respect and reciprocity and prosperity and uplifting people and thriving. And so this is kind of where we landed, but then also, representing our farmers, producers, our businesses, our communities, going across the entire spectrum of the local foods community and being representative of them, but representative in the ways that we see where our local food system, where we want it to end up. So our mission statement from there, and mission, again, it's like how we get there. Vision is where we're going. Mission is how we get there. So we're committing to strengthening and expanding access to local foods, which nourish people, sustain the environment, and drive lasting economic growth through education and collaboration. So when we talk about that empowerment value, right? That education, collaboration, that's kind of where that shows up, right? Nurturing people, nourishing people. That's kind of where that shows up. So you'll see, like, throughout the whole process, our values are very interwoven through our mission, through our vision, and through our strategic goals. And this is through 2035. So for the next 5 years, this is where we hope to be working on and where we hope to go.
And one other thing about the mission statement is, you can get really lofty and a little bit aggressive in what we want to do as an alliance, but we kind of had to keep ourselves in check because like then the alliance isn't necessarily the one doing a lot of the education. They aren't the ones doing like providing any services or anything like that to actually increase access to local foods. But so then we had to rely on that strengthening and expanding piece, building those connections, the collaboration. So that is kind of where we really had to focus and hone in on what the Alliance is actually here to do. And so if there's questions around some of that, then that's a little bit more background as to where we landed with the mission statement. We wanted to do all the things, but we kept having to rein it in a little bit.
Right. And yeah, to kind of follow up what Jan said, of course, it's like a strong local food system. We'd love to see that. But, being realistic about how we get there and how we as a volunteer board can make that happen, honestly. And we'll get into that in our strategic goals too, like how we want to address those things. But yeah, so essentially that strengthening and expand. Sorry, my mouth does not want to finish words today. Strengthening and expanding access to local foods, nourishing people, sustaining the environment, driving lasting economic growth through education and collaboration. Then our strategic goals, the fun part. I mean, all of it's fun, I guess, to me, but the action behind like all the words, right? So our first biggest strategic goal is building a foundation for a sustainable local food future. And why is this one of our goals? Well, like I mentioned, the NDLFDA, we're all volunteer board members. And so we all have full-time jobs. And as much as we can engage with this work through our work, it's the goals that we have are for an organization to be able to sustain itself, without the board members being a working board, more, transitioning to a governing board, providing that oversight, but having an actual staff person to be able to initiate our programs, run our meetings, engage with our membership base on a bigger scale than we can right now. And so for building a foundation for a sustainable local food future, we went through all of our activities and when we want to get them done now. But I won't go through them here and get too convoluted, but essentially we're looking at, so strengthening our budget, defining those kind of things so that we can eventually hire a full-time executive director with benefits to be able to lead our programs, our initiatives, our values. And I have a timeline at the bottom. So remember, this is from now to 2030. So, I mean, it feels like, oh, it'd be great if we could just snap our fingers and have this tomorrow. But it's a goal that we'll all be working on over the years to get towards, to be able to have, the sustainable foundation, an executive director that can run our programs. So.
Yeah, so this one's kind of a lot of the internal back end sorts of things, making sure that we've got solid membership base, we've got engaged members, our bylaws are solid and reviewed, onboarding for board of directors and that sort of thing. So it's kind of like not as like fun and glitzy, but it's things that really do that we can stand on every day.
Yes, and that leads us into our next goal really well. And these kind of build on each other, right? So without a, a foundation for a sustainable local food future, we can't then strengthen our engagement and support a broader membership base. And so this is all about putting ourselves out there more, connecting with more people, increasing those networking and collaboration opportunities, recruiting more members, and being more intentional with how we communicate with our members, how we release information and how we engage our members in the work that we're doing, how we connect people to programs and to projects. So strengthening engagement, right, getting more people as more people's organizations, local food stakeholders, and then supporting that membership base through, providing resources, having a really developed membership directory so those members can then go and they can see who else that they can work with, creating more opportunities for people to network, to speak with each other, outside of just our monthly meeting, expanding those types of opportunities. And yeah, so in the process of doing this, the first strategic goal we had kind of like two prongs. And then as we worked through it, the second prong of like internalizing the strength into membership is kind of was put under a strategic goal two, and to just support the broad membership. And then also part of this, as I mentioned in the beginning, is having not just membership representation, but board representation for the state. So like I said about, we'd really like to see someone from the western part of the state come and join. When we look at our board matrix, what are the skill sets that we're looking to round out our organization? So that's also part of it as well. So developing our board skills and our board recruitment strategies so that we have an NDLFDA board that is, for the most part, representative of the local food system. Not that it isn't now, but it could just always be more. So.
And then another thing about this one, Jenna, wasn't this one where the advocacy piece came up that we develop or potentially develop some guidelines around policy
Yes.
advocacy?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of in response to the survey respondents, and it came up through our strategic planning that could be something, and that would likely, I think, end up under this goal too.
Yeah. So developing our communication strategies, developing our guidelines for, aggregating grant and resource information for producers, kind of all that kind of stuff, tightening it up. So it's partially internal, partially like a foundation thing, and then partially external for how we want to engage with our membership base. And then our last strategic goal, which is expanding local foods awareness and consumption for consumers. Side note, in here, I think we did have some discussion about, so like Jan had said, what is it that the Alliance or the NDLFDA actually does? So expanding local foods awareness and consumption for consumers. I think we had touched on, expanding production, distribution, and aggregation. But when we really looked at it, like that's not something that NDLFDA does specifically, right? And so when we think about this, maybe an expanded version of it would be expanding local foods awareness and consumption for consumers while supporting expanded production, processing, and aggregation. And that was just a lot of words to put in there, but the heart of it is expanding awareness and consumption for consumers and customers, getting local foods to be a household name, developing this local foods economy so that people have, they know what NDLFDA is, and NDLFDA is very clearly putting local foods in more people's hands and at least making it aware for more people where they can access those things. And then, of course, that supports our stakeholders, our producers, because it gets, more sales, more local foods out there. So anything to add to that one, Jan? No, I appreciate that you're adding things because I end up talking like a million miles a minute. So I appreciate that you're just wanted to make sure. But yeah, so expanding local foods awareness, supporting those warehousing projects, supporting cooperatives, supporting, and facilitating more farmers into, producer-led associations and that kind of thing. And so then we also have coming pretty soon here is a website refresh. I guess it should be a refresh because it's not completely new, but well, I mean, it will be completely new for you guys. But as we're working on this, Felicity Merritt is helping us. She designed this beautiful web page, which I think looks so good. But basically, just to streamline the process for people to engage with each other, help members connect, and we'll get into updates on the North Central Regional Food Business Center here after this, but part of that website update was to be able to house some of those resources. And so we're not quite sure what's going on with that at the time. We haven't really had any new news. And so that kind of ruins the update, but I'm sure Amanda has more to say about that. But essentially, the website update was kind of in conjunction with that, just to be able to kind of keep everything clear and in its space. But then, it was just time for the NDLFDA website to get a new refresh, to be a little bit more easier for users to use. We're switching over the hosting platform, so it's even easier for us as board members or, on the back end staff to be able to manage it. And so I don't know exactly when this will be ready, but probably at the end of this year, you'll be seeing that website roll out. And then that was out of order, but so we went over the website update. But then the timeline is just really brief with just some of the activities that we want to kind of accomplish over the next 5 years. So of course, later in 2025, we'll unveil the new NDLFDA website. We're hoping in 2026 to really kind of zero in on membership tiers, benefits, fees. That doesn't mean that everyone here is going to get charged like $50. It's just to say when we talk about our sustainability and how we can continue to support the organization. When it was originally introduced, there was a kind of fee structure, and that's kind of fallen to the wayside. So that was a conversation we had during our strategic planning, where exactly what we want to do with that, if we want to pick it back up, if we want to, like I said here, develop, a little bit different of a system for having membership and providing benefits or tiers and different levels of membership to kind of distinguish between. 2027, looking at developing a membership directory, of course, all part of broadening and strengthening our engagement. 2028, recruit and hire an executive director, and that's probably going to be, we start looking in 2028 and we maybe have someone by 2029, being idealistically, right? But it feels like as I get older, I'm like, gosh, that's 3 years away, but I feel like it's just going to go in a blink of an eye because we're past 7 months, through 2025, and it feels like January was just yesterday. So but that's on the horizon. Then, of course, like once we get that executive director, it's like boots on the ground. Then we can really start with the fun stuff, doing the programs, doing the, enhanced meetings, upping our networking and our collaboration. And so having more targeted communication to kind of strengthen that engagement. And then 2030, one of the last things that's on the strategic plan as a way to expand that access to local foods to increase the consumption is launching campaigns to promote local foods in the state. What that's going to look like, I don't know. It's our hopes that we'll have an executive director hired and in place, and it'll be someone who's really great fit for the role, who's ready to kind of lead NDLFDA as it comes out of its infancy and it starts taking its first steps. And so you'll have to wait and see in 5 years what we're doing and how we're promoting local foods and what the local food scene will look like at that time. But just a brief timeline, nothing set in stone, but this is kind of how we set up our goals and how we set up our milestones for achieving them and hitting those markers.
And I think too, like in the whole strategic planning process, it's kind of like we do think about ideal situations, like if we could wave a magic wand, if we had endless funding opportunities, that sort of thing. But also we kind of continually circled back to like the board of directors cannot do this alone. And so like that is a result from this regional food business center work where that kind of started things going. A lot of this work had been in progress for the past, I would say, more than 10 years. And now we're just finally getting to this place. And so thinking about what it looks and feels like if we have paid staff who runs and operates something like this, but then also relying on an active and engaged membership base so that the work doesn't rely on just a board of directors or just an executive director. And so all of those, there's, nearly 1 million strategies within these goals too. And so thinking about each of those little teeny tiny steps, getting us to where we want to go, but also being a little bit loose in that, like it could change, we could veer off course, we could find a new direction. And that will just be highly dependent on the people involved.
Yeah, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention when we have had paid staff, which was Felicity Merritt when she was our AmeriCorps. I wasn't with NDLFDA at the time, but she was our AmeriCorps um, volunteer, I guess is what you call them. But I feel like the most strides we've taken is when we have that paid staff. That was when I started becoming involved with NDLFDA, and I think that was in 2021. Felicity, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like we've made the most strides when we've had that extra person who's able to dedicate their time to developing, the marketing, the branding, the communication, the engagement. And so ultimately, that's our goal for a strong foundation. And that is our presentation. We got about 5 minutes if anyone wants to ask any questions. Yes, she served 2020 to 2021 in October. Thank you, Felicity. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to shout them out. But yeah, essentially that was our strategic planning process. Thank you so much to Chris Gessley, who was on our board at the time, but unfortunately had to he had to hop off the board just to do the Regional Food Business Center funding. But Chris, you have a question?
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Lots of good stuff in there. And I wonder, or if there are groups out there that would make sense to collaborate with. And one example might be the Farmers Market and Growers Association. And say if someone from that organization could serve on this board, and there could be um, collaboration, I guess, just to strengthen both organizations and then the local food sector as a whole. So I think there could be some benefit from something like that.
That would be cool. Kind of like an exchange program. Like you can have one of our board members, we can have one of yours.
Yeah, there you go.
Any other questions?
I guess too, I'll just add a little bit of detail on like what the strategic planning process looked like. We had several online virtual meetings as a group that was facilitated by our consultants. And then we did have an in-person retreat in, goodness sakes, what month was it? February? Yeah.
Yep.
And so we had, I think, nearly a full day or a little bit more of in-person strategic planning where we were actually working things out and getting a lot of details out. But I would just like to extend a big thanks to the board of directors for putting the work in and spending the time and energy. I think we ended up with a solid strategic plan, knowing that there's still some work yet to be done on figuring out some of the details within that. But I think the refreshed mission, vision, and the values that we can stand on, I think I would just like to extend a big thanks to the board of directors for putting in that effort.
Thanks, Jan. Thanks, Jenna, for presenting that on behalf of the board. With that, I think we'll shift gears towards the Regional Food Business Center update. So as Jenna kind of alluded, a lot of the funding and the process we were able to do some of these major strides was due to funding that we got from the Regional Food Business Center grant. And as you've been heard, and many of you know, the grant has been frozen since February, and not much has changed on that front of things. However, we still continue to meet as a group and kind of just trud forward on making sure that we are still connecting and working on local foods and what we can do. So with that, and I know Stephanie and Felicity are on, so maybe they can chime in with a little bit more details. But one of the things that we decided as a group that was part of the RFBC was to submit a grant for the RFSP, which is Resilient Food Systems Program application, which was submitted the end of June. So we kind of I should say Felicity and Stephanie did a majority of the heavy lifting on this in about a 2-week turnaround. They requested $1 million for over 3 years to implement on a statewide action plan. Key partners of those included farms, the North Dakota Local Food Development Alliance, the North Dakota Women's Business Center, the regional councils, North Dakota Farmers Union, and North Dakota AREC. And Stephanie and Felicity, if you guys want to chime in a little bit more, if you want to add to that, feel free to. But that was definitely one thing that we're hoping that will kind of help shift from what the absentee of the Regional Food Business Center.
I can share a bit. And really big shout out to Felicity because she really did the majority of the heavy lifting in writing this grant. She said her voice is a bit hoarse today, so she asked me to share. So yes, we've applied. This is a grant from USDA Ag Marketing Service. So it's the same family of grants that Farmers Market Promotion Program and Local Food Promotion Program are part of. This is the Regional Food Systems Partnership Program. And it is we applied for $1 million. It's a 3-year project. It would, if funded, would start October 1st or September 30th of 2025 and go through September 29th of 2028. And really, the 5 objectives that we wrote into the grant are essentially the statewide action plan that we collectively wrote under the Regional Food Business Center. It's a condensing the main tasks and objectives of that statewide action plan. So funding to put that into place. It's a lot of it's about a coordinated system of technical assistance. So coordinating those, like the Women's Business Center, farms, and the regional councils who provide direct technical assistance to local food producers, creating a system where we are using a shared intake form, where we have a shared resource library, where we have regular information sharing sessions and trainings, so that there's a no wrong door approach for a farmer. They can approach any one of us, and it's a seamless process for them to find exactly the supports that they need, that their specific questions are answered. There's also a resource library for local food technical assistance providers, and that would live on the new website that Felicity has created. And that's not to be confused with a resource library for producers, which Farms is creating on our website independently. So these 2 resource libraries are going to be linked. They're going to work together, but one is going to be for local food systems and one is going to be for farmers and local food producers. I think the most important part is that we've written in funding for NDLFDA, specifically for that part about growing your foundation and providing staffing. So if this grant were funded, that might accelerate your timeline on staffing a little bit. So we wrote in funding to this objective formalizes and strengthens NDLFDA as a statewide backbone organization, shared professional development across TA providers, and the hiring of NDLFDA's first full-time staff to coordinate long-term strategy. It would also include coordinated communications and marketing campaign about local food systems, kind of anchored by NDLFDA in partnership with farms. You know, we would share resources, create a shared press release templates, shared talking points, shared communications plan, so that collectively we could be talking about local foods, getting the message out, and even doing some of that advocacy ahead of the next legislative session. So again, this grant, you know, you guys had a very conservative timeline, and this grant, this objective is a lot of those things you had in your timeline, but because it's a 3-year grant, it would be somewhat accelerated. So hopefully that, but I also heard you say that you are flexible and, you know, open to adapting your timeline as circumstances change. So we will find out sometime late summer if this grant is moving forward. We are moderating our expectations, knowing that this was a very competitive grant this year. They did a call for more peer reviewers, so that tells me that they had a lot of applications. But who knows? All we can do is put an application out there and wait and see. And if nothing else, this application can serve, even if it's not funded, this application has a detailed work plan that can serve as a blueprint for our work moving forward collectively. Any questions? Did I cover all of that clearly?
I think so. Does anybody have any questions for Stephanie? Well, thank you, Stephanie and Felicity. I know you can't speak, but really thank you guys again for taking that extra effort and major lift to get this done in such a short amount of time. It really is great to have you guys collaborate in that. So look forward to hopefully some good news in the near future. So kind of leading into the rest of what we with the RFBC update, and then also some updates that kind of tie in with the North Dakota Local Food Development Alliance is just some upcoming events that are happening that we kind of want to promote and share. So one of them, I know this is a ways off, but the Local Foods Conference will be held October 17th through the 18th in Carrington, North Dakota. And I don't know if Jenna, you want to share a little bit more about that, or I'm sure we'll talk about it in some future meetings, but just wanted to kind of put that date out there so people can tentatively put it on your calendar if you're interested in it. So another thing, oh, sorry, Jenna, were you going to say something?
Say, I think we have on the schedule NDFMDA, probably Keith or someone likely talking about that the month before October. So he'll probably come on and talk a little bit more about it. But yeah, so right now it's Carrington at the Chieftain. It's the 16th through the 18th, but the 16th is the Thursday evening session, full day, 17th and 18th. So
Thank you. Another thing, and I'm sure Stephanie, you can also chime in a little bit about this, but Farms has as you know, the recent storms that hit many in June here with all those storms. Farms is doing a resilience and small scale enterprise grant. It is a $500 grant intended for local food producers in North Dakota and the Red River Valley that were impacted by those severe storms over June 20th to 21st. The deadline to apply is Monday, July 21st. So I believe that is next Monday. But you can find that information on the farm's website. So I know that they also emailed that out and shared with some people too. But is there anything else I need to add, Stephanie, or you think I've got a majority of what you?
Thanks for spreading the word. It's a fairly simple application. Just tell us how your farm was impacted or damaged. Share some photos of the damage, and we'll ask for receipts before sending you the funds, up to $500.
Thanks, Stephanie. Another thing too, tomorrow, the Dakota Legacy Initiative is having a webinar, Nourishing North Dakota, getting involved with the farmers market. It's a look at the landscape of our state's local farmers markets and why improving our local food systems is critical to our community. So that is from noon to 1 tomorrow, and you can find that by going on to the Dakota Legacy Initiative website. We'll have that there and you can register for that. Also, just want to put that plug in again. If anybody is interested on being a representative for our board, the application can be found on the website, I believe, Jenna, and also it will be in the follow-up minutes that we usually share. So there's that. And then also wanted to put in that join us for next week or next month on August 19th will be our monthly meeting. And that will start at 2 o'clock, and we will be talking about local foods legislative updates. So, is there anything else that I'm missing or need to discuss? Anybody that is on this call? Seeing none, hearing none, unless Stephanie, you were going to say something.
Check out farms.org for our events page. We do have a Fargo farm tour coming up August 7th. So I was just realizing that that was going to happen before the next meeting, so should call it out.
Thanks. And Mary, I believe you're the one that is presenting on, or will be one of the guest speakers for that webinar that's through the Dakota Legacy. So just want to put a plug out for that. And again, thank you everybody for taking the time for joining us today and listening to our new strategic plan and some of the updates that we are moving forward with. So thank you again, everybody, and hope you have a good rest of the day. Bye.
Thanks, Amanda. Bye.